The first time Margaret's phone rang that night, she thought it was a wrong number. It was 2:17 a.m. She was half asleep, her small dog, Charlie, snoring softly at the foot of the bed. The phone buzzed again. Same number. Unknown. She almost ignored it, but something, a quiet pull in her gut, made her swipe to answer. She whispered, "Hello?" Static. Then a faint sound, breathing, slow, uneven, and a voice no louder than a breath. "Don't let him in." Margaret sat up, heart thudding. "Who is this?" But the line went dead. She turned on the lamp, the warm light spilling across the room. Charlie lifted his head, ears perked, a low growl rumbling from his chest. The room felt different, the kind of stillness that presses against your skin. She tried to laugh it off, maybe some prank, a crossed signal, but when she checked the call log, her blood ran cold. The number wasn't unknown, it was her own. Margaret stared at the screen, trying to make sense of it. Maybe a glitch, she told herself. Phones mess up all the time. But deep down, she knew this wasn't ordinary. She put the phone face down on the nightstand and leaned back, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Charlie was still tense, eyes fixed on the dark hallway. Then came the sound, faint, from downstairs. A single deliberate knock. Not the door, the window. Her breath caught. She listened again. Nothing. Then another knock, softer this time, like someone testing the glass. Charlie jumped off the bed, barking sharply. Margaret's pulse raced. She grabbed her phone again, hands shaking, and dialed 911. But the call didn't go through. Instead, her screen flashed white for a second, then displayed a text. Too late. She froze. The message was from the same number, her own. She slowly stepped out of bed, every floorboard groaning under her weight. Charlie stayed close, his body trembling. When she reached the top of the stairs, she could see the faint light of the street lamp through the curtains below, and a shape. Someone was standing outside, facing the house. They didn't move, didn't knock again, just watched. Margaret's mouth went dry. She reached for the curtain cord, but before she could pull it, her phone buzzed again. Another message. "Don't look." She let go. Her hand was shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. Charlie growled low, his fur standing up. Then, as suddenly as it began, silence. The figure outside was gone, but on the glass of the window, faintly visible in the light, there was a handprint, still warm. Morning came, but the night didn't leave her mind. Margaret stood by the window, staring at the faint handprint still smudged across the glass. She'd barely slept an hour. Her coffee sat untouched, cold. Charlie kept pacing, back and forth, his small paws clicking softly against the wooden floor. Every few seconds he'd stop and stare at the front door, ears twitching, tail stiff. Margaret tried to shake off the unease. Maybe it was all a dream, sleep deprivation, stress. She even laughed under her breath. "I'm losing it, aren't I, Charlie?" But when she reached for her phone, that nervous laughter died in her throat. The text was still there. "Don't let him in," and right below it, the time stamp. 2:17 a.m., the exact moment she'd woken up. She called her sister, Ellen. "Someone was outside my house last night," she whispered. Ellen's voice was groggy. "At 2 in the morning? Maybe it was an animal, Maggie, or—" "It wasn't an animal." He knocked on the glass, a pause. Then Ellen asked carefully, "Did you see who it was?" "No, just a shape, tall." Standing by the window, Ellen sighed. "Call the police." Just in case, Margaret nodded. "I already did." But she hadn't, because deep down she couldn't explain the part that made no sense. The call from her own number. Who would believe that? That evening, she decided to leave the porch light on. She double-checked the locks, even nailed a small board across the back window just to feel safer. Still, as night thickened, that same dread returned, heavy, crawling under her skin. Charlie refused to leave her side, his tail tucked low. She sat on the couch, TV on low volume, pretending to read. At 2:15 a.m., the power flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the faint moonlight crept through the curtains. Her phone buzzed once. One new message. Hands trembling, she turned the screen. "He's inside." Margaret froze. Her throat went dry. The sound came next. Soft, deliberate footsteps above her head. In the attic. Charlie barked furiously, running in circles. Margaret backed toward the door, heart pounding so hard it hurt. She could barely breathe. She grabbed her keys and phone, whispering, "Come on, Charlie. Come on, then." Thump. A single heavy sound from the ceiling, and another message appeared. "Too late to run." She bolted out the front door, barefoot, clutching Charlie to her chest. The cold night air hit her face like a slap. She didn't stop running until she reached the neighbor's porch light. When the police arrived 20 minutes later, they searched the entire house. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no one hiding. But when they checked the attic, they found something strange. A small area of dust cleared away, as if someone had been lying there. Next to it, a single object, Margaret's old cell phone, dead battery, screen cracked, and on the wallpaper, a picture she didn't remember taking. It was her, asleep in bed, taken from above. The glow from the attic door pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Margaret stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, phone still in her trembling hand. Her instinct screamed run, but something deeper, something colder, told her to stay. She had to know. Charlie whimpered, low and broken, tail tucked between his legs. "Stay here," she whispered, though she knew he wouldn't. Step by step, she climbed the stairs. Each creak of wood echoed like thunder in the silence. The air grew colder near the attic hatch. Her breath came out in thin, visible clouds. The faint light flickered again. Blue, unmistakably a phone screen. But it wasn't her phone. Margaret hesitated, then slowly reached for the attic cord. Her fingers shook. The thin rope felt like ice. She tugged it down. The ladder unfolded with a metallic groan that made her flinch. The glow vanished. For a long moment, there was nothing. Just the faint smell of dust, insulation, and old wood. Then, faintly, she heard it. A low hum, the kind electronics make when something is still powered. She pulled herself up. Her flashlight beam trembled across boxes, old clothes, forgotten Christmas decorations. And then she saw it. A tripod. A phone, still recording, pointed directly at the attic opening. At her. Margaret's throat went dry. On the screen, the live image showed her face in real time, illuminated by her own flashlight. And below the screen, taped to the floor, were dozens of photographs. Photos of her, sleeping, cooking, reading, every one of them taken through the window, through the cracks in her curtains, from impossible angles. She dropped the flashlight. It rolled, its beam landing on a pile of crumpled fabric in the corner. At first, she thought it was a blanket. Then it moved. Margaret's scream caught in her throat. A man, filthy, thin, eyes wide and unblinking, sat huddled against the beams. He was barefoot, clutching an old blanket and an empty water bottle, and in his other hand, her missing shirt. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other. Then he whispered, voice raw and hoarse, "She said you were lonely." Margaret stumbled back, nearly falling through the attic opening. Charlie barked furiously below, snapping her out of paralysis. She dropped down, slammed the hatch, locked it, and ran. The police arrived minutes later, though to her it felt like hours. They found the man still in the attic, sitting quietly beside the phone. He didn't fight, didn't shout. He just kept repeating one phrase. "She said I could stay." When they pulled him out, Margaret caught a glimpse of his face. Familiar. Too familiar. He was the delivery man who'd dropped off her groceries 2 months ago. She remembered him smiling politely, saying, "Nice dog you have." That was it. A moment forgotten, until now. Later, the detectives told her he'd been living up there for weeks. He'd tunneled in through the crawl space above the garage, surviving on snacks from her pantry and bottled water. The phone, they said, was filled with hundreds of videos, all of her. But one video stood out. It wasn't filmed by him. It was filmed of him. A shadowed figure behind the camera whispering, "Don't look up." The detectives dismissed it as a trick of light. Maybe he recorded himself. But Margaret knew that voice. It wasn't his, and it wasn't hers. It was female, calm, familiar. That night, unable to sleep, she sat in the living room, Charlie pressed against her leg. She scrolled through her contacts to delete the unknown number that had started it all. But when she opened it, there was a name attached now. Her stomach turned to ice. Ellen. She stared at the screen, then slowly turned her head toward the dark kitchen where the phone charger still glowed faintly red. The air felt different, like the house itself was holding its breath again. Charlie's ears perked up. A sound echoed faintly from upstairs. A click, like the attic door unlatching. "You shouldn't have left the light on." The voice message played again, on its own this time, from nowhere, from everywhere. Margaret froze, tears blurring her vision, and as the whisper faded, Charlie began to growl softly at the ceiling, low, constant, protective. Because sometimes, even when the intruder is gone, the house remembers who opened the door first.